You know how you have to have points for away games? Well, now what they're introducing is heart rate monitors for home games because let's face it, after this week, we need them. A thrilling 3-3 draw at home to Burton Albion leaves us trying to get a resting pulse. Lee Gregory's 90-something minute penalty earned us a point on a Saturday afternoon, which should have seen us get all 3 points. We'll talk about lessons that we learnt from that and the different levels which we appear to be taking on and playing at as we reflect on a 3-3 draw against Burton and a 2-0 defeat at the hands of Rotherham in the Doesn't Make Sense Cup. All of that and much, much more here on the Mansfield Matters Podcast. Come and have your say on your team. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast. It's the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks very much for joining us again on this Thursday night. We've got a lot to talk about this evening. So, as always, if you want to have your say on your team, come and do so in the comments below, and we'll read some of them out as we go through the show. Bear with us a little bit tonight because our little studio setup that we usually use has been updated, and they've changed a lot of things, and it literally changed about 2 minutes before I logged on. So I'm figuring it out as we go along. So there could be some interesting things happening tonight because I don't know how to get these four into big screen yet. So we'll figure that out in the next couple of minutes. So let's say hello and welcome to them in just a minute. But first and foremost, this is the show for the fans, by the fans. It is an open forum to have your say on your team. And I must reiterate this. The views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual and not those of Mansfield Matters as a collective, as a podcast. For example, I quite often think that Cam is a bit of an idiot, but I know that Alan Wilson will not share those views. So if you take offence to me saying that Cam is an idiot, please don't go to Alan and moan at Alan that Alan has said that Cam is an idiot, because he has not said that, and he might not believe that. You get what I'm getting at. Everyone's opinions are their own. Right, let's say hello and good evening to everyone on the podcast then, shall we? Let's figure out how to get everyone all on screen together. I wonder if I do this, will that work? There it is. Let's say hello and good evening to Mr. Alan Wilson.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
Let's say hello and good evening to the man who's got more shirts than Castor officially or unofficially. It's Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame.
Hi, Craig. Hi, everyone.
And let's say hello to the man who might reply in 4 hours' time. Evening, Jim.
Evening, Craig. Evening, everybody.
Told you there was a bit of delay on this new one. And finally, it's the man who's not an idiot sometimes. It's Cam Felton. Evening.
Good evening. Who are you going fishing for? Your favourite pastime, fishing now?
No, I'm just stating a categoric fact that this podcast, which has been established for 8 years, 8 seasons, is an open forum, and the views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individuals. That's all I'm saying, and we'll leave it as that. Right.
It's on the ticket every week.
Literally, down there. You can't miss it. Right, let's delve into the podcast, shall we? And start by talking, Alan, all about Saturday afternoon, 3-3 at home to Burton Albion. Is your heart rate resting yet? Is it back to a resting pulse yet?
It was certainly a good game, and I think, to be fair, I think it was a fair result in the end. I mean, we came out of the traps like lightning. They came back into it, through a bit of a wonder goal. We got the impetus again just before half-time, and I did think I couldn't see people who stood up in front of the box and at the side. So I had to ask 2 or 3 people who scored, and they all swore it was Lee Gregory. But obviously it was an own goal, but never mind about that. And then they came back into it quite well, I thought, in the end, and deserved to be in the lead. But what a penalty. Hasn't he got some bottle to come and take it off Akins? Because Akins were walking over to pick the ball up, and Gregory says, oh, no, that's mine. And to be fair, he put it away with the plum. So in the end, I think it was a fair result.
I think one thing about that, Nick, is obviously, Lucas Akins would have wanted to have scored against his former club. I'm not quite sure had he taken the penalty and tucked it home that he would have celebrated. But Lee Gregory's celebration to silence the Burton fans, it just makes us love him even more already, doesn't it? We'll talk more about Will Evans and sort of swoon over him as the podcast goes on. But Lee Gregory deserves equal swoonage, and that is a word.
I'll give you that's a word. I didn't think he was going to miss. I think he's very confident. He's a goal scorer, isn't he? God knows how many goals he scored last season. He scored bagfuls of the Championship. I think of all the players, for a 97th minute penalty, I was quite relaxed. I was quite relaxed about the penalties at Bolton, actually. I actually just thought he was going to score. Maybe if Akins had picked it up, I may have not been quite as comfortable. But I couldn't see Gregory missing. And he looked very confident, put the ball down with purpose, like Alan said, grabbed it off Lucas and just banged it in the net. It was as simple as that. But I agree with Alan on that in the end, when you look back, a draw was just about fair, considering we could have had 6 in the first half. But the key to League One teams is they're never out of the game.
Yeah.
I think in League Two, that would have been a Harrogate. That could have been any score. But I think the key to those League One teams is they don't let you run away with it, and they're always in the game. And despite how bad Burton were at playing out the back, they carried on and kept doing it, and eventually played some good balls in behind and probably got what they deserved in a couple of goals. But yeah, it was heart racing stuff, to be honest. But I thought we'd lost it at that point until we got the penalty. I thought it was game over.
Jim, it just goes to show, doesn't it, that even though we've stepped up a level, Mansfield's attitude of never say die is still very much ingrained in our DNA.
Nope, can you hear me? Yeah, it's. Could you just repeat that, Craig? 'Cause I think I lost you for that last bit.
I was just saying that the never say die attitude is very much ingrained in our DNA, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was an eye opener. I think we should have won the game. The amount of chances we had, we need to get a bit sharp. I'm sure we will do. But it was encouraging. I think a lot of rest would have bought to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cam, looking at the way Mansfield sort of handled themselves in that game, realistically, if we're being uber picky, we should have been out of sight, shouldn't we? So that was a real lesson in take your chances when they fall your way.
Yeah. He emphasised even more by, yes, Burton did deserve to score goals, but we effectively handed two of them on a plate to them. And Aidan Flint held his hands up and said it was his fault. We'll come on to that a little bit later. But these teams aren't just going to roll over. And the last two games, including Tuesday night, have been maybe a little bit of a wake up, because I think we very much rode our luck at Barnsley on the opening night, and it seems that until the 93rd minute that luck might have run out. We got away with quite a few things at Barnsley, and we didn't against Burton. Let's be real, we didn't take our chances. We were sloppy in defence. We rode us luck for so long, but we were very good going forward, and I think that's going to be something that's going to be a theme this season, where we're very good going forward, but whilst we still have injuries and we still have players missing, we're going to be a little, not shaky, but just a bit not as comfortable as maybe what we should be. You think of the players that we've got out missing would be first-team players. Blake Tracy will play nearly every game. Alfie Kilgore, if he was fully fit, would play every game near enough. So it swings and roundabouts, but the total opposite to Nick, I was bricking it at that penalty. Just because I don't know what it is. I think I don't like shooting towards the north stand in the second half. I don't know what it is. We've had that one game where we've played well again, going that way, but every other game I think we've had a stinker.
I don't know whether you can read anything into that, Alan, or not. I think that's just Cam's
we are very superstitious on this podcast. What are you on about?
Not playing the jingle, we'll get copyrighted.
I would say I think it all depends how the captains determine it. If they think, if they kick in towards their fans in the second half, it'll give them a bit more impetus depending on who's won the toss, and they might just want to change it around a little bit, them kicking towards their fans. But it certainly worked in the end with Gregory. I felt fully confident, same as Nick. I got no problems with him taking that penalty. He looked all on 100%.
To be honest, I think if you want any player on a situation like that, we've conceded the game almost. We've pretty much at that point, Nick, snatched, defeat from the jaws of victory. If you want any player to come in and sort of rescue you on that, you want Lee Gregory on it. Experienced, calm head, knows what he's doing and knows where the back of the net is most importantly.
Yeah, I think even if the player misses, as long as you think that your best player in that situation took it, that's all you can do. And I think we did. He was the right man for the job. It's same as any of those chances. I think if he'd have had the chances that Keeler Dunn had, I think he'd have probably had a hat-trick. Because he was, the one shot he did have that the goalkeeper saved quite well. But yeah, he was the man for the job. Didn't think he was going to miss. But as Jim said, I was very surprised we actually got it. because we don't get those at Mansfield. We get them given us against us, but we don't tend to get them. But yeah, a fantastic advert for hopefully what's to come this season. We talked about it in the car on the way to Rotherham. I think I'd rather us be good going forward and a little bit lapsdaisical at the back than really secure at the back but can't score goals, because there is always the chance that you're just going to concede anyway, no matter how secure you are. So the fact that we can score bagfuls, I'm happy with that.
Jim, I want to highlight a comment which has come in from Stag's chat, who says, I believe we've not had really bad games and we are quite relaxed in games. Relaxing in games is one thing, but I think what we need to do, and quickly, is we need to be a little bit more focused, especially defensively, because like we saw on Saturday against Burton, we will get, picked, the mistakes and the errors that we make will be picked upon a lot more by League One teams than what they will League Two teams.
Yeah, I think you got to remember it's only August, isn't it? So we will get sharper. And Clough always says, doesn't he, by the end of September, you got to wait till then until you match sharp. And I'm sure we will get better in both boxes in the next sort of 6 weeks. But you're right, it is more unforgiving, isn't it? So,
it is.
I think it's going to be a fun season.
It is, and you've got to look the last 2 games, and we talk about the chances that we didn't put away against Burton. We'd have scored goals for fun at League Two if we put that sort of performance in. It just does show the levels that, firstly, we're still holding ourselves to, but secondly, this is a league there are no pushovers. And to say that Burton was struggling towards the end of last season and very, very nearly got relegated and survived by the skin of the teeth, that they've majorly improved over the close season. Obviously, new owners, new players, CEOs come back, and they seem to be on a really good place off the pitch. They've now transformed that into a good position on the pitch, and that's a level that we need to be reaching. So, yes, Burton very nearly went down last season, but we, as a minimum, that's where we need to be at to not go straight back down again.
I think
I looked at their sorry, Craig. I was going to say I looked at their squad, and only 3 of the 18 were at Burton last season. So it's very hard to read into where they're going to finish. I think the only thing I would say about the 3 goals is that I didn't look what the XG was because I'm not a big believer of it, but they scored goals that our chances were quite simple, weren't they? They just showed that in League One, you just give them half a chance. Those Bowden goals were half chances. They weren't, maybe his second goal, but the other 2 goals were half chances. And it just shows you can't even give away that at this level, and they'll just punish you.
That's the point, isn't it? You were talking there about only sort of 3 players being in the squad last year. They've had a takeover in the summer. They've had they've had a bit of an injection. They've signed about 4 million players. They're gelling as a group. But one thing I think we're all guilty of probably is actually underestimating them a little bit and judging them by last season standards. The Burton that we used to know, the Burton side that always struggle in League One, are always sort of in and around the relegation zone. Well, actually, they're a squad now who've got completely different ambitions, and maybe, and this is where I'm going back to that comment, Alan, about being relaxed in games. Maybe we as supporters sort of did that, but maybe the players did as well in terms of not quite being focused enough, thinking it was going to be an easier game than actually what we gave Burton and what they gave Burton credit for.
I think in the end, though, Craig, if we'd have put, 3, 4 of those chances away, with the gilt-edged chances, it wouldn't have really mattered because they wouldn't have been able to hurt us as much as they did. So I think it was, how can I put it? It was on our head, if you like, because we didn't get the chances, but we were still able to come back, which shows a positive mental attitude, which was good. But I thought, to be fair, they weren't, apart from the passing out at the back, I didn't think they were a bad football inside, to be fair.
No, they're very clearly working on the game plan, aren't they, and changing their DNA. Let's look at this comment from Michael, Jim, who says, 4 points out of 6. Great start. Matched every team we have played despite the injuries. Why the negativity? Remember the 10-game rule at the beginning of the season? I'm not quite sure if a negative vibe is coming across. I think that's probably the wrong vibe which you're picking up on. I think what we're talking about more, Jim, is the fact that in League Two, we get away with those misplaced headers, misplaced passes, whereas in League One, we just got to be on it to eradicate them. I don't think it's a negative point, is it?
It's not negativity, it's critical analysis.
No, the show would be boring if we just sat here and said everything was wonderful, wouldn't it? It's our job to play devil's advocate. I think we're just being realistic, aren't we? But to be honest with you, I mean, I was just thinking, I was more worried when Clough said he's after 2 strikers and no defenders. But then I think, well, should we be worried? Because it's clear that the direction he wants to take the forwards is more of a pressing, aggressive, working off of the team kind of role. And we're going to defend as a team this season rather than just rely on 1-to-1 at the back. So I don't think we've got anything to worry about, really. I think we never expected to come into this league and be a top 6 team, did we? So we're just going to be realistic. We're smaller fish in a bigger pond now. I don't think we'll go down, but I don't think we'll go up either. I think it's going to be a mixed bag of a season. First season at the level, but I think it's going to be fun and it's going to be up and down. But I think we should just be happy we're in League One and just enjoy the ride. But I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick, that 4 points out of 6, completely agree with that. It is a great start. I don't think we could have asked for a better start, could we?
Not 5 goals, 2 games. The Bolton draw. I think I said on the podcast last week when we were doing the predictions, I just said, just don't lose. And the more games you don't lose, just breeds confidence, especially last minute equalisers like that. Doesn't matter the 4 points. Doesn't matter whether we're drawn at Barnsley and battered Burton at home. It doesn't matter. You get the same amount of points. So for me, it's a brilliant start. We couldn't have asked for to be unbeaten after 2 games and 2 good cup performances, despite that we lost both games. I think we've been fantastic so far. We've made mistakes, but like we say, you maybe didn't notice them last season because they wouldn't have got punished, and this season they will. But I don't think there's no negativity coming out. I think everyone's just being realistic about the standard. But you won't find an unhappy Mansfield fan at the minute, I don't think. Unless you're trying to buy a dodgy knockoff shirt from China. But apart from that, we've massively shown we can compete. We've been the better side in all 4 games. I've watched all 4 games. I've been to 3 of them. We've been the better side in all 4 games.
Yeah, 100% we have. Just on that as well, Alan, we were talking about sort of knowing our errors and sort of not and knowing things like that. People were talking about Aidan Flint, the measure of a good side and the measure of a good leader is to know when you've had a bad game. He had his worst game, I'm sure he'll agree, in a Mansfield Town shirt. Everyone has a bad day at the office. Everyone has one of those days where they have an absolute stinker. Aidan Flint seemed to have that on Saturday, but straight away on his Instagram, on social media, he came out and said, I wasn't good enough today, and I apologise for that. And we move on. And to know that and to have that said, I actually think that's a good use of social media. So that it just shows that within the dressing room we know that we can do better, we can improve, we can build.
Well, you could see that as they were walking off the pitch. You know how they come over to the West Stand for the applause and whatever. And as he was walking off, they were clapping him like they normally do, and he was gesticulating with his hands, saying, "No." He says, "I've had about all this business." He said, basically, I've had a bad day, and I'm sorry, which is fair comment because hold your hands up. He did have a bad game. There are a couple of mistakes, but I'm sure he'll get over them and come back, like the leader that he is the next game.
That's exactly what you want. Let's talk a little bit then about some of the positives in both games. We've not really touched upon the Rotherham game, but we will very, very shortly. Let's talk Cam Will Evans, who has come in, as if that's what you get for your money, you're very delighted, aren't you? Sometimes you shell money out and you get, a really poor, a really bad cup of tea. And sometimes you get an absolute peach, an absolute perler. We've got a perler. It's like we've been given a cup of tea and a digestive chocolate orange biscuit at the same time. Beautiful.
I'm really going to cop some grief for this, but he's a better Rhys Oates. Exactly the same style of football, plays exactly the same way, just does it better and doesn't get injured or injure himself. Yeah, touch wood.
Yeah, well done. Well said.
You look at the comparison and you look at what we're missing as a squad when we've not got Rhys Oates, and it's somebody that's just got outright pace. And Nick, before you mention anything, Hiram Boateng does not have pace.
Doesn't need it. Zinedine Zidane didn't need pace, did he? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he played for Real Madrid.
Well, Boateng would. He's just comfortable here, isn't he? His missus likes it.
Well,
She loves the Four Seasons shopping centre. She said, I'm not interested in moving.
What a play.
yikes. But
Can I just interject at this point and just remind people of the little ticker that's going underneath that the views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual.
anyway, Will Evans has been fantastic. He seems to have a very good attitude, and he seems the sort of player that will do well under Nigel Clough. You look at the influence that Nigel's had on Davo and players like George Maris, Ollie Clark, etc. before he left, but they very much took to how he wanted to play, and he's played two games, and he just looks brilliant. And I don't. As long as he sort of like keeps to his game, he doesn't go to his head or whatever. But you listen to interviews in the past when he was at Newport and sort of like speaking around the Man United game, he doesn't seem like the sort of player that's going to wilt under the pressure, which I think maybe we've been a little bit guilty of in the past. Obviously, going for the more, I'm not saying he's a big name signing as in like some ridiculous world beater, but you think he was one of the top scorers in League Two last season. We've done this in the past in Maynard and Cook, and they've just been utter flops. And obviously, it's a long way to go yet. But his mentality and his professionalism since his move has just been brilliant. He's just come in, got on with the job, and it's going to be exciting to watch him. Unlucky against Rotherham on Tuesday night, but brilliant against Burton and thoroughly deserved his goal. Lucky that it fell to him, but he should have definitely got at least two. Obviously, Nigel wasn't best pleased about that, but that's the standards that you've got to hit when you're stepping up a division. And so far, he seems to be making it work. And let's hope he can keep developing.
Nick, you were absolutely swooning over Will Evans at one point. At one point on Tuesday night, when you were swooning over Will Evans that much, Hiram Boateng looked over and started crying.
I nearly changed the fan club's name. I bought a year's subscription, so I can't. The only thing I don't like is the length of his socks. But it's in the Harry McCurdy thing, isn't it? Every player is. Jack Grealish did it at League Two. It seems to be a thing, but I was thinking at Rotherham at the game, we needed this season for every signing to be good. We couldn't afford any duds. And you look at all of them. I mean, Osher Larger, he's been fantastic. He's been unbelievable. Dave, he's been unbelievable. Blake Tracy was man of the match for me against Barnsley. Lee Gregory looks like, he's got the pace of a 25-year-old, which I didn't expect. I thought he'd not necessarily come here for a payday, but you think he's going to be a bit like, well, I'll leave it to the others and I'll stand in the box. He was tracking back to fullback against Burton. He played 90 minutes. He then played the 45 at Rotherham. So he's been fantastic. We've not signed a bad player from what I can see. And Evans has been superb, absolutely superb.
I think Lee Gregory, for me, I wasn't sure what to make of him in pre-season. And obviously this is just pre-season, but he looked maybe a little bit lethargic, a little bit like he was making too much effort. He looked laboured. But I suppose then again, it's pre-season. They're not going to exert themselves. But he's, like Ben says in the comments, Gregory is a lot livelier than I expected to. Tracks back, runs all day, looks confident in front of goal. And unfortunately, this is a player that we probably wanted 14 years ago.
I think your fan had him about 14 years ago.
Exactly, is what I mean. Just the journey that he's been on, and who was the manager? I know who was the manager at the time.
Just at the time.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to get done for saying something. I don't want to get arrested for hurty words, but it's frustrating that it's took this entire time to get a good version of Lee Gregory. And he always seemed to be another one of these players that just didn't work out at Mansfield and then turned into an absolute world beater.
I don't think we signed him any other time, though, do we? He was that good. He was way too good for Mansfield. We've been 2 divisions below his expectation by a couple. He was scoring 20 goals in the Championship while we were struggling to get anybody to score 10 in League Two. So yeah, we've got him at the time. I said to my dad, imagine how good Flint and Gregory were 5 years ago. But like my dad said, you would never have seen them at Mansfield 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But we're just lucky we've got them now.
Say that again, Al.
Not unless it was in the cup against them.
Yeah, absolutely. No. I think that says a lot, though, about Lee Gregory, doesn't it, Jim? You know, he's the type of player, almost like Aidan Flint last year. He didn't have a pre-season at all, did he, Aidan Flint last year? Came in, hit the ground running, and was superb for us. Lee Gregory's exactly the same. He knows the level. We said it when he signed. He knows the level. He knows where the back of the net is. You know, he can play 90 minutes, and he's exactly the Clough kind of player. If he gets ball to feet, it will be lethal. And I think the more that him and Will Evans gel together, oh my word, it's gonna really get people on the edge of their seats, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, I think Nick's right. We wouldn't have had the likes of Gregory and Flint 5 years ago, so this was the only sort of time we would get somebody like that. But yeah, you can tell his quality, and that penalty summed it up. I never thought he was going to miss. That youth backs himself, doesn't he? And I think if we could get the right service to him, and he doesn't have to do much running for me, just put legs around him. Another, Bacchus, Will Evans, they can do the running for him. He can just hang around the box. Cristiano Ronaldo, he did at the end of his career at Man United, well, I know he's still playing, but and get him the proper service, and he'll score goals. And that's what we were lacking last year, wasn't it? It was just
it was people getting in the box. That was the problem. How many crosses did we put in?
I think,
I was going to say that the amount of crosses last season that we put in the box and no one was there.
Yeah, well, I think he will be there. I think all those three. Sorry, I think Evans, Gregory, and DKD could all get 20 each if they stay fit all season.
That's what we want. It is strikers that can all contribute. Not just. Let's be fair. For a lot of last season, we were relying quite heavily on DKD, and you take his goals out of the equation last year, and we might have struggled to get over the line at times, especially with having to play other players elsewhere. This season, what we've done attack-wise, it's almost the polar opposite, isn't it, of last season's, summer transfer. Summer transfer last year, we strengthened a lot defensively and didn't really add anything to the attack. This year, we've not really added anything defensively, but we've added to the attack, and it swings and roundabouts. And, like people are saying in the comments, people are also swooning over Keanu Bacchus, who looks really, really bright. We've got other players to potentially come back as well. George Maris when he's back fit. Rhys Oates will have a bit of an impact. But what it does show as well is, and this is something which we will talk about more if and when a deal happens, is a player like Tom Nichols, who 2 or 3 weeks ago I was thinking we'll get prior to Will Evans signing, we'll get a run in the side and will be, a good addition for us. It's pushed him right down the pecking order. It's pushed Will Swan right down the pecking order, Nick, to the point where they're probably likely to leave in this transfer window.
Yeah, I think he seems to have had his mind made up, because even when he signed Evans, he still said he was after a striker and there was 2 possible targets. So then you do think, well, somebody's got to go, haven't they? But it shows our strength that we don't really need Nichols and Swan. The only reason we need them is if we get injuries. No guarantee of Oates coming back anything like, which is my only worry. But I imagine he won't let either of them go if we don't get a replacement. Nichols, for me, has been a little bit disappointing, but I don't even think we really knew where to play him. He sort of played at cam a little bit, and then he played up front a little bit. I don't think we really knew, or it suited him, because DKD was always a better version of Nichols, so he was always struggling. Swan's, he's either going to score a hat-trick or he's just going to go missing, one of the two. He doesn't seem to have a middle ground, which is a shame, really, because I think he would have been a decent deputy this season. But if we're going to get money for him and get someone better, then I'm all for it.
Absolutely right. Let's turn our attention to cup action. Obviously, a 3-3 draw against Burton on Saturday, followed up by a trip in the Pointless Cup to Cam's hometown, and still didn't invite us round for a cup of tea. What an absolute disgrace. Rotherham away, made a fair few changes, Nick. We went along to it. And even though we conceded, a couple of sloppy goals, like people have been saying in the comments, and like we alluded to earlier, over 90 minutes, we didn't do ourselves any harm or disservice against another fellow League One side.
We played well. We didn't get any injuries. I think that was the main thing. I listened to Paul Rayner's interview, and I went on this sort of weird Miller's chat thing that they've got going. and they listed Boateng, Williams, or somebody else as consistently their player of the match. They didn't think their team played particularly well, other than taking 2 chances, one of them being a deflected goal. I thought he played really well, and the one for me was George Williams. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was our man of the match. I thought he was brilliant. And it makes you think. I've always been saying we need another centre back, but if he's going to be fit and play, then he could be that cover, because I thought he was superb, and it was nice to get players getting a run out. I would have liked to have seen some more of the youth players, but apparently Abdullah got injured and Cooper's obviously injured. Flanagan had played earlier in the day, but I would have liked to have seen maybe some of them play. But apart from that, I thought it played really well. Again, it was build-up play, was fantastic, but that end product was just missing a little bit, especially second half when we brought the main 2 off.
Sorry, the fact that we're going to come back to a point that we were making earlier about the Burton game was that, yes, it's the cup that nobody cares about, but it's still a step up in opposition. They're a team that's in our league. They're a team that we want to sort of like.
Sorry, I've got a visitor. It's an older version of me. Come and say hello to the.
Chris. Evening, Chris.
How did we play against Burton? Oh no, you weren't there, were you? Because you sodded off and left me. You didn't bother going to Rotherham. Bye.
Oh,
that's good timing.
In a bit. He's just brought Harry back. He's took him for a walk, so I didn't have to.
Fair enough. Anyway, it's a step up in opposition, and it's a team that effectively the level that they're at is where we want to be. So it's like eventually want to be pushing top end League One. Not this season, maybe not next season, season after. Nigel's always said it's a Belgian project, same as like we were in League Two. But the fact that they had 2 shots on target and scored from them, but we absolutely pasted them for near enough 90 minutes is ridiculous that we didn't score on Tuesday night. I know it's a cup that we don't care about, but we should have absolutely tonked them.
I do think when we start to click, we will hurt teams. We've just got to be cautious of that defensive thing. I know we're swooning a lot about. I need to stop using that word. That's 3 times I've used it now. We're talking a lot exuberantly about the way we attack and the way we play. Thank you. But what we've not really touched, we touched upon it a little bit with Flint, but defensively, we are a little bit weak. And I know a couple of people have put in the comments about a little bit worried about the lack of defenders and things like that. On Tuesday night, Alan, I don't know if you managed to catch it or catch some of the highlights. The 2 goals that we gave away were a little bit sloppy. And essentially, we were playing with a back 4, which included 4 fullbacks. One of them, in Elliot Hewitt, who's clearly not fully fit. He's got his knee strapped up, and every time he moves, I wince in case he gets, because he's one, overstretch away from buggering the rest of his career up, I think. George Williams is the abnormality to that, because he was superb and was easily my man of the match. And like someone said earlier, if he came in on Saturday, if Flint was injured or whatever, or if Dave was injured, he would be a capable replacement and you wouldn't have an issue with it. Experience League One, yada, yada, yada. McLaughlin at centre-back, questionable, not quite got the pace. And Callum McDonald, I think we should probably leave that one there. So it's really about defensive cover, isn't it, Al? But you look on the bright side and you think, Kilgore waiting to come back. All right, he's probably the furthest away of the lot. Bailey Cargill waiting to come back. Tracy's not too far away. Suddenly you add those 3 in, maybe 4 if Hewitt pushes himself to get fully fit. And all of a sudden you've gone from scraps and having to put square pegs in round holes again to a really solid back line, as much as we've got a really solid front line. It bodes well, but it's just getting them out of the injury room and onto the green stuff.
Yeah, I was talking to Bailey Cargill Saturday, and he said it's another week away. He was quite happy how things were going. But I'd agree with Nick. George Williams, that is his position. He said he loves to play. I can remember interviewing him a while ago, and he said that's his position, Craig. He does love to play centre-half, although he can play right back. That's his favourite position. And he's proved it, quite a few times. He can head the ball. He's, for a small guy, he certainly knows how to leap and head the ball, and his passing ability is, as good as anybody else's. I think he's a revelation there, and I wouldn't have a problem putting him there. Like you said, if Flint was injured or, any others fell out of form.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, you were shaking your head a minute ago when we were talking about Callum McDonald, and someone in the comments has just put McDonald needs a loan out or a kick up there. Why were you shaking your head?
Well, McLaughlin at centre back and McDonald, I think neither are cutting it for me. But I worry about Kilgore and Cargill. I don't think they're going to be. They both had stints in League One, and neither of them have been particularly fantastic. I agree with Williams. I think he's a genuine League One player. But I shouldn't worry, lads, because Evans and Gregory will be playing centre back by Christmas, so don't worry. It'll be completely different by Christmas.
I was waiting for that. Nick, we obviously saw the defensive fatalities on Tuesday night, but even then I wasn't overly worried because you take those mistakes out of the game and we did look a little bit disjointed. But like we were saying, I know Jim's doesn't have massive belief that Kilgore will come back. I'm not sure about Cargill. I'll hold my hands up about that one. But Kilgore, I think, will be a little bit different, Nick. Mainly because he's progressed in his career since then, and he's now modelling himself very much on Aidan Flint. So it would be. You remember when we used to have Paul Bolland and the other Paul and the other Paul in the conference days, and they looked exactly like each other, and you could never tell who they looked like. And it'd be like that at centre back. It'd be like having twins.
He's nearly as tall as Flint as well.
I've muted myself. I feel like with Cargill, he could do a job at fullback. Whether he's good enough to come back in at centre back, I'm not sure. But when he's back fit, you don't need McLaughlin and McDonald. We don't need all three of those who can all play there. The worrying thing is Will Evans can play there, but hopefully he never mentions that again. But Kilgore, I think he'll come back okay. He looked after himself. He looks an absolute unit at the minute, doesn't he? I don't know if anyone's seen him.
Yeah.
He looks an absolute monster. So hopefully he can come back and his hamstring's all right and he can come back in. But, I mean, Dave's been a revelation again there for me. He's been superb. And I think you've got Blake Tracy, who can also play left back, but he can also play centre back and has done League One. So maybe we have got enough cover, but it does depend on how Cargill and Kilgore come back. But I think McDonald's days are numbered. Neither of the McDonalds at fullback played particularly well for either team, did they?
No, they did not. It was quite interesting to see Alex McDonald play at right back. It was a little bit of a throwback to that horrendous MK Dons game, although that was right wing back. So if we're being pedantic, it was a little bit different. But nice to see him, and nice to see that he's still got that red card in him. And don't say it too loud, and I might get shot down for this. But it's very much of the Nigel Clough signing mould. Is Alex McDonald?
Yeah, he's not going to happen. He's only just gone to Rotherham, and we know that.
Not too much, doesn't he? He loves Big Steve.
Yeah, I'm going to say Evans spaffs over him. Oh, he's another Danny Rose. That weirdly, I'm surprised that Danny Rose didn't follow Evans to Rotherham. He seemed to sign everybody else, but I was actually quite impressed with Alex McDonald at right back. Although I did seem to confuse quite a few people on Twitter saying that McDonald needs to stop playing rugby and thinking that it was Alex McDonald was talking about because of the rough tackling. No, it's our McDonald. Stop bloody going backwards. Jesus Christ.
Do you know what, Nick? I don't know what's worse. Cam's rant about Callum McDonald or the debate we saw in front of us about whether or not a striker should be forced to take a penalty or not.
What?
Yeah, that was a. I mean, I don't get irate at football. If I do moan, it'll be something happening on the pitch. I've got no interest in the opinions of other supporters in terms of it doesn't make me angry. If you've got an opinion, great, fine. We were sat, and within about 2 seconds, there was a heated debate in front of us between two people about, and I mean heated, not like an angry debate. One person's position was that Keeler Dunn should have been forced to take a penalty at Bolton, as in physically forced, and held at knife point. And the other was, I don't really care. If you don't want to take it, don't take it, not bothered. And I'm very much in the I don't give a hoot category. As in, if you don't want to take it, don't take it. But it seemed an odd one mid-match to get really angry about. It was strange. It's really passionate as well. I was like, this is a nothing subject, this. You know, like Craig gets irate about the price of sausage rolls. And Clive was apoplectic that there was no cheeseburgers. You know, granted, that's an angry-worthy topic, but I couldn't care less who takes penalties. I couldn't care less if they score or miss. Have a go. Try and keep it on target. Sorry, Hiram. But It was bizarre, that was. Especially in the second-hand cars trophy. Like, what can you get angry about that?
Listen, it was that, and there was another moment, I can't remember the saying, it just randomly in the second half appeared every time we went near goal. Something like, hit the f***er!
Yeah.
Just
I
random.
imagine that same person was shouting it quite a lot on Saturday as well.
Yeah, most probably. Right, keep your comments coming in. Keep having your say on your team. It is half time, so we'll be back after the oranges. Welcome back to the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. As always, come and have your say on your team. Anything Stag related that you want to talk about, get it in the comments now. And share your opinions on all things Mansfield Town, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch, which we're going to come to in a minute. But a very friendly reminder that, of course, the views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual and not those of Mansfield Matters as a collective. Right, let's move swiftly on, shall we, and talk all things off the pitch matters, because it's time for a news bulletin. Following an increase in the selling of counterfeit merchandise, the club wishes to re-encourage supporters to only buy licensed products from its official kit and merchandise partner, Castor. Counterfeiting is the deliberate attempt to deceive consumers by copying, manufacturing and marketing goods bearing the club's crest. Brand abuse and counterfeiting negatively affects the revenues we can generate and therefore the monies the club can reinvest. We are proud to have such passionate supporters who wear the club's badge with pride to show their support. Unfortunately, this loyalty is sometimes exploited by individuals and companies who unofficially use our name, image and marks to sell and promote their own products. The club will not accept breaches of its trademarks and will take all necessary measures to protect our supporters from unofficial merchandise. For the avoidance of any doubt, any purchases that are not from Castor, the club store, at One Call Stadium, stagsclubshop.com, or the club's official partners are not official and do not benefit the club. On to other news now, and John and Carolyn Radford will host an evening with a week on Friday. Tickets on sale now at stagstickets.whatever the link is. That's the latest on the Mansfield Matters news. It's 20 minutes past 8 on Thursday the 22nd of August. I'm Craig Priest.
I thought you'd turn on talkSPORT then for a second.
I mean, I'll take that as a...
You might have got sacked mid-air.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone would think that I used to read news for a living, wouldn't they? But there you go. In all seriousness, though, Al, the club have put out a club statement in the last, couple of hours or so, talking about dodgy merch and counterfeit shirts. There are a few flying around, and it sort of backs up what the club sort of said unofficially with the shops and things like that selling sort of Mansfield Town related goods. They're really clamping down on, aren't they? But if they're going to clamp down, surely they need to reinvest and make the club shop and club website better. That is just, of course, my opinion.
Yeah, well, I thought when the Castor came on board, I thought, things are going to look up a little bit, but they don't seem to have done. That's only my opinion. They don't really seem to have done, but our people say, how things fall off the shirts and whatever. Personally, anything I've bought has always been okay. Now, whether it's the way Jeanette washes them or, however it is, they seem fine. But I just wish, we could get a little bit more merchandise in the shop that we can go and look at, i.e., polo shirts and stuff like that.
I think it's it is a really, really difficult situation, isn't it, Jim? People have been sort of selling these counterfeit goods. You should never do that. That's obviously really, really bad. But when the club have gone from, I know it's to do with kit deals, but when they've gone from having one shirt change every season to all of the kits changing the season, you're a dad, your lad is slowly getting into watching Mansfield now. Sooner or later, he's going to want a shirt, he's going to want this and that, and it adds up, doesn't it? And before you know it, it's a choice between buying, a couple of shirts or putting food on the table. And then you feel bad as a supporter for not buying the merch.
Well, it's a problem for the club because it's probably better than the originals. So, but yeah, I think they're naughty. I mean, bought out 6 kits this season and 6 kits last summer. But I don't think you can stop it, to be honest with you. I think counterfeits are brought out for all clubs, aren't they? Is it AliExpress? Or I think it's that site. You can buy any shirt for like a tenner. But good luck trying to stop it, because I don't think you ever will. But I ain't got a lot of sympathy, to be honest, Craig, with the club or Castore, because 6 kits at 55 quid, that's a steep increase. Welcome to the real world, It is what it is for me. I think £55 a rip-off anyway.
An expensive game, Nick, isn't it? And, especially with Castore, they seem to have they've got like a range of products which they whack every club that they've got their badge on. And it's literally that. There's no moving from it. And it's just not, sometimes it's not appealing.
No, I mean, when you say it's an expensive game, you're probably talking to the wrong person about that. The expense of and cost of football shirts. But for me, I think the club's got a point with the football shirt. I mean, the replicas I've seen are horrific. Spelling the things right, they're terrible and will absolutely fall apart straight away. They're awful. But my argument with the club is if you don't sell something, then you don't lose out from somebody else selling it because you don't sell it anyway. It's not the shirts is completely a valid point because, the harder one is people with kids, because if your kid's going to want all 6, no one's forcing you to buy them. Granted, you could just buy one. But then you look at the hoodies that are £90 for a hoodie. Joe. And all it is a black hoodie with Mansfield written on it. It's no badge, no crest, no nothing. It's awful. And I don't know how much the kids one is, but I imagine it's probably north of 60 quid. It's madness, that sort of cost. When the storage gear was 30 quid. It's madness. And the price of the football shirt, 55 quid, is about standard. You can't really argue with that. But again, the fact that Jim said with the 6 kits, that's got to be a club decision. Castore will have suggested it, but the club have got to have said yes. So it's funny how the morals of we don't want fans to buy more than one shirt a season went out the window when a little bit of moolah was thrown around. But I think the club have a point with the kits, but not with some of the other merch. And I did speak to someone, I don't know how true this is, so I'd have to fact check it, but someone spoke to the shop in Sutton that was selling gear, and they said they had the club's permission before Castore to sell stuff and hadn't heard anything different. So the ones that are selling like bed covers and suitcase stuff, the club don't sell that anyway. So they're not driving anyway away from the club. It's probably a kick up the bum for the club to sell more stuff, surely. Because if people are buying it, then, well, sell it then. Don't allow bootleggers to sell stuff that you offer a very limited range of merchandise.
It's a very fine line of what's acceptable and what isn't when it comes to counterfeit, as in what the argument is. There'll always be the argument that the higher the cost, the greater the pull is for counterfeit. You look at, I know this is a Mansfield podcast, but this has not been a thing until this season. Most prominently, it's just you look at Premier League clubs, you look at the most recent Euros. German police were taking fake goods off of fans in the street because it's illegal in German law, and that's to protect the image of their clubs. Germany have got this, obviously, the fantastic 50+1 rule. I think it's very beneficial, and I think it's definitely something that should be explored in the higher echelons of the English game. But it's all down to brand image and brand protection. And there was a lot of uproar when Sheffield Wednesday released a similar statement 2 weeks ago. And like Nick said, some of these fakes are truly horrific. I wouldn't ever buy a fake Mansfield shirt because, first and foremost, I've never had any of my Castore things fall off. I think it's slightly coming off, but I have also been told that the only reason it fell off is because somebody put more fabric softener in. If you use the normal wash tabs, they're fine. Put any more fabric softener in, they start to fall off. But as someone who used to work for one of the official, for the official gift shop, I hated seeing people flogging really cheap, tacky Microsoft Paint designed mugs and T-shirts. Different because it's ours. Shut up. But things with clubs branding on, and it's like, it's really poorly made. And knowing that these are being made by somebody in their bedroom that won't have a single clue about the first thing about sublimation printing, which is what the mugs are done with, you just know that it's going to be a really bad quality product. And I just don't understand the pull for it. I get that the cost of things isn't brilliant all the time on certain things, shirts, hoodies, etc. But when it comes to things like selling mugs and towels, we've got people that do that. I've got friends of myself, a former work colleagues and my boss sell that sort of stuff. And we're doing out local people that have got the rights to be able to do it. And that money goes back to the club. That goes back to the club. And that's
the club, for me, though, have missed out on the biggest opportunity in 30 years of us getting promoted.
100%.
They sold no promotion merchandise. Like, you see the amount of people who've gone on holiday and would have bought a Mansfield towel for 20 quid.
We did.
And all that 20 quid would have gone back to the club.
We did sell promotional stuff for
bits and bobs, but it wasn't very well advertised.
But
I've not seen anybody with any promotion-based merchandise at any of the games I've been to.
It was poorly advertised.
You can get yourself a promotion program done 3 months too late, which also includes players from this season and stuff about this current season, so it doesn't actually make sense as a promotion magazine. The views in this broadcast are solely those of the individual. Alan, there's an opportunity to ask some of these questions, isn't there, though, a week on Friday, when John and Carolyn do a very rare, that's not a negative, a very rare evening with. I'm really looking forward to it. Me and Clive have already got our tickets for that one. It's an evening with John and Carolyn. This is what it says. An evening with owners John and Carolyn Radford will take place in the Radford Foundation marquee at One Call Stadium on Friday, 30th of August, starting at 6:30 p.m. Doors will open at 5:30. It's an all-ticket event costing £5 per person, cheek, and all tickets are now on sale online at stagstickets.co.uk under the events tab, or from the club's ticket office. Season ticket holders and members of the SSA will have first priority to purchase tickets until midnight on Wednesday, the 28th of August. Any remaining tickets will then go on general sale. Tickets are expected to sell quickly and therefore early bookings advisable. There's a capacity of 400 tickets. And supporters who are unable to attend can submit questions to the owners via email. That's mark.stevenson@mansfieldtown.net. Please also state your name, location, and to whom your question is directed. And it'll also be available to watch on iFollow in full the days thereafter. But a great opportunity to ask questions like this, like why isn't your club shop bigger? Why have you stopped local businesses using the club trademark logo? Is that you, Orca Store? And why on earth have we got 9,000 kits? And why can't Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame have exclusivity on buying these shirts, Alan? It's a great opportunity to ask all these questions, isn't it?
It is, but I'm just gutted that I can't go. I bought a ticket, but I've realised that I'm not available that night, so I can't go. But I usually enjoy them evenings, especially when they do the Nigel one, the John and Carolyn, anybody. I just think they're good informal evenings, and it's a good evening. Yeah, I really enjoy them, but I'm sure I'll get some decent feedback.
Yeah, we'll sort of feedback. Jim, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I always find that these things are sort of well-timed. They're either towards the back end of the season where things are going relatively well and there's very little room for things going wrong, or at the start of the season when things are quite fresh.
Yeah. I think it'd been better having it, perhaps before the kick-off of the season, but I think it'd be quite a positive night because things are going quite well. But I always worry about these things. You're always going to get a bit of a vanilla answer, aren't you? They're not going to tell you anything too shocking.
Well, you can send your questions in.
I mean, personally, I'm not. Yeah, you can. I never think you get to know the true story, do you? Your website answer. You never get the what's really going on answer. But I mean, they usually the one with Nigel Clough was really good that we went to before the end of last season. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
Gets
absolutely.
you out the arse,
Let's talk.
if you want to go.
It certainly does. Certainly does. In other club news, Nick, they've stopped you getting exclusivity on the shirts. They're making you bid and add about £9,000 on top.
It's disgusting. That's what it is. So yeah, I've for anyone who hasn't bid on there, I think I put a bit of a synopsis that I've got two ways of thinking about this. The first way is that there's a few issues with the company that I've got fellow shirt collectors of Norwich and a few other companies where they don't get the right photos, which they've already uploaded wrong graphics. They don't get the photos of the shirt in time, so then they keep delaying the auctions in a hope that more people will bid and the prices go up. It should be a 7-day auction, but very rarely it is because there seems to be an issue, and then it goes, oh, we've got to add a day on because of we haven't had the photos in time. But it gives fans a chance to buy match-worn shirts who would never have got the chance. So that's a positive. But if you are bidding, I would be aware because I've bid on one at the minute. So they're all about a similar price. They're all about 99 quid, I think, at the minute. But if you bid at £99, you will pay £137.99. So you bid at £99 and you think, oh, I can pay £99. It's £99, whatever. No, you'll pay £137.99. So there's a fella at the minute, or somebody, maybe a lady who's the Flint one, I think, or the Keeler Dunn one is 120, which will be about £165, something like that. But thankfully, you get a message when you log on saying that I'm authorised to bid up to £639. That's a positive.
Has your wife logged on and give you authorisation for that?
Yes. No, it does it for you. It's good like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Keeler Dunn's 121. So if I wanted to bid now at 144, it would be the next bid because they don't let you pay in £1 increments. It only goes up in £20. I don't know if you can see there, but you probably can't. But £144.
Yeah.
The cost would be £197.88 if you want to go up to £140. So for me, that's madness.
Sorry, why is that, Nick? Is there so many add-ons? What are the add-ons?
It is. So there's VAT, which is 20%. There's a buyer's fee or buyer's premium. I don't know what that means. Like, what's that? What's a buyer's premium? Is that just their profit margin? Maybe. And there's also delivery, which is about £7. Because the way it works is the shirts get shipped to their base in London. So the Sags players sign them. They get shipped to London where they will take photos of them, probably too late in time for the auction to close. And then they will ship them to the winners. Whereas in reality, they could just ship them from the club. There's no need to add that extra delivery fee. That could be halved. Buyer's premium is ludicrous at 10%. What is that? That's just profit, isn't it?
I think it's because of the authentication, and you get.
It is. You do, yeah. But it's a bit of a rip-off, but it is a good chance if you are going to go, you know what, I won't buy a £90 hoodie. I'll buy one match-worn shirt a season.
I think
maybe
it's to stop fans. It's not even necessarily fans. It's to stop collectors and rebuyers taking the absolute Michael with it. Not as in Nick. I mean, like you look.
What shirts? What shirts?
You look at other YouTubers or Twitter people, for example, that go around buying football shirts that just don't give a toss about Mansfield, just buying them for the sake of buying them. It gives, like we said in the past, like, yes, it gives normal fans the opportunity to buy them, but it hopefully stops people buying them purely for resale. And I think this is another interesting one. Going back to sort of like how shirts are distributed and the cost, etc. I noticed this a couple of days ago, and I'm surprised that we didn't have the same sort of problem this season. Sheffield Wednesday, for example, they've sold out of their shirt, but you go on eBay and there's hundreds selling for like 100 and something quid. And I'm surprised that nobody's done this because the issues that we had last season with getting kit. But just the general shirt game is just ridiculous now. And I think it's brilliant that we've got the opportunity to buy these shirts. But like Nick said, it's ludicrous, the cost of it.
Without going to the last point I will say on it, because this is my bread and butter, this, isn't it, shirts? Northampton do an eBay page where after every game or every so often they sell shorts, socks, footballs, training kit, bibs, shirts, goalkeeper shirts. They sell everything on eBay. So they get 100% of it or whatever eBay take. And shirts generally go for about 50 quid because they put that many on there. They don't cost the club anything. After every game, they'll put 2 shirts on there for 50 quid. That's what the club should have done, but it is what it is. They wanted to go down that route, and idiots like me will still buy them. So,
what is it that they say? Money, money, money. It's a rich man's world. Right, let's move on to the feature that you've all been waiting for. No, it's not to do with the numbers that you wrote down on your piece of paper, because they will come into play in about 5 minutes' time. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give Cam, and I mean this sincerely, 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes. You said earlier that you wanted to rant about something. Your 2 minutes starts now.
I forgot what I was going to rant about.
Okay, I'll play podcast predictions jingle then. There we go. So can you be the master or an embarrassing disaster? In this guessing game, there's a simple aim. It's outguess the rest and be the best. Win, lose or draw. Do you know the score? Who will be your hero to make sure you don't score 0? Yes, it may be fiction, but this is Podcast Predictions. Yes, Podcast Predictions is back. Clive isn't with us this week, but he has sent his prediction in. And he says that we're going to win 2-1, and he has chosen Aidan Flint as his fancy Stags captain for redemption. Alan Wilson, you're up next. Lincoln away.
Lincoln 1, Mansfield Town 2, Keanu Bacchus.
Cam, over to you.
Lincoln 0, Mansfield 1, and Will Evans.
Jim.
2-1 Stags win. DKD.
Nick of Mansfield Town shirts fame, or shall I put it another way? Nick of there's no shirts in my garage. I don't know what you're talking about fame.
Don't know what you're talking about. 2-2, Gregory.
Oh, good choice. I've gone for a 2-0 win, and Dave as my fancy Stags captain. The link that you need is in the description. Make sure that you enter no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff on Saturday afternoon. And of course, there's one more game after that. And then after that, in the first week of September, we will reveal the first table of the series. And a reminder that all the details of how it works in terms of points and everything like that can be found via the link in the description. And speaking of links, I've just posted a link to a YouTube video. I was invited on to the Lincoln's version of Mansfield Matters, the Stacey West podcast, last night for their preview show. Go and give that a watch after this podcast is done, because it's a worthy watch, and they're great guys as well. Looking forward to locking horns with them again. Podcast Predictions is free to enter. It's a bit of fun, and remember, don't leave your prediction in the comments. Click the link. Only predictions that are entered via the link will count. Simple as that. So that's Podcast Predictions out of the way. Now, last week on the show, we had this. The bucket.
Oh, dear.
His head. Now, Cam said to me in the week, I miss all the old features that we used to do on the podcast. Years and years ago, we used to do a little bit of a silly feature at the end of each podcast for a little bit of a laugh. And you know what? I thought it about time that we brought that back a little bit and introduced some new ones, some new games. So on the board, I have here, along with our predictions for the season, which I might have to change if Tom Nichols gets loaned out. We have games tally. So Clive, a couple of weeks ago, won a round of What's in Craig's Bucket and got a point. Now, are we going to be playing What's in Craig's Bucket today? Are we going to be playing an other game today? Well, there's only one way to find out. And
Fight!
the way... No, it's not. I mean, we can have a fight if you want. I'll punch you. I've got no problem with that. entertaining views, but
Long arms.
it didn't quite work through a webcam, does it? The way to find out is to press the random game generator. Are you ready for this?
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Here we go.
Content loading. Selecting game. Game selected. Players stand by. Stat battle.
So there you go. The first game has been selected. It's a game called Stat Battle. I'm going to explain how it works. On screen, I am going to put on some players that you may well recognise on screen. There are 8 of them. Now, earlier on, I asked you to pick a number between 1 and 10, and I'm going to get those numbers in a minute. And basically, that's going to decide who gets first pick, etc., of these players. I've got various stats about these players written down, and in my magic bucket, in Craig's bucket right here, there are various categories to do where the stats will come into play. It'll all make sense when I read the categories out and things like that. Think top trumps meets top trumps and another game and things like that. It gets basically a rip-off of top trumps, right, basically. And we're going to play it and see who gets a point. So first and foremost, we need to decide who gets first pick. So Alan Wilson, could you please show me your number or tell me the number that you had written down?
Number 10.
Okay. Nick, did you have 10? You had 3. Okay. Cam?
7.
Jim, what number did you have written down?
Number 9.
Okay. Alan's going to get first pick. Jim's going to get second pick. Cam's going to get third pick. And then Nick is going to have fourth pick of the players. Now, it's going to be the same player for all of the rounds. So some it might be a wise pick, others it might not. I'm not going to tell you what the rounds are because it's all done at random. So let's pick our players. Alan, you are up first. So we've got Kevin Pilkington, Alan Marriott, Liam Lawrence, Adam Murray, Christian Pearce, Rhys Day, Matt Green and Davis Keeler-Dunn. I think I know who you're going to pick. Are you going to pick Matt Green by any chance?
Greeny.
Okay, so you've picked Matt Green. Jim, you're next. You can't choose Matt Green, but you can choose any of the others.
Christian Pearce.
Yep.
Okay. Cam, you're up next.
Oh, Davis Keeler-Dunn.
Okay, and Nick, you get the final pick of who's left.
It's an unfortunate picture of Liam, isn't it? Kevin Pilkington.
Okay, I thought you'd go for that.
I thought you might pick him.
Okay, right. So this is Stat Battle. Right. So here we go. I am going to go into the magic bucket and I'm going to pick a category at random. You can see they're all in there. I'm going to pick one at random. Nick's that delighted with the game, he's had to nip off. There he is. He's getting his Kevin.
Nope.
Okay. So the first category is as follows. The number of clubs they played for before they joined the Stags. So who is going to get the point here? So, Alan, you went for Matt Green. This is their first spell, by the way. And according to my research, Matt Green played for 6 clubs. Cam, you went for Davis Keeler-Dunn. He, unfortunately, played for 5 clubs. Jim, you went for Christian Pearce. He had 10 clubs before joining the Stags. And Kevin Pilkington, Nick, had 7 clubs before joining the Stags, which means the person with the lowest amount of clubs before joining the Stags was Cam, which means, Cam, you are out.
What?
Last person standing.
I thought you were going to sort of like say name them.
No.
I think we could have done that.
No, not at all. No, that would take me far too long. Cam, you're out. So it's now between,
That's bullshit.
with the same players, Jim, Nick, and Alan. Then according to Clive then. Time to pick the second category. I'm delving deep in my bucket. The handle's fallen off. Look, there we go. That's a good sign, isn't it? Giving up.
It's live.
Absolutely, you can tell it's live.
You think we'd script this, Alan?
The next category is captain, coach, or gaffer. So, if your player falls into this category, whether they were captain, a coach, or a gaffer of Mansfield Town Football Club, then you stay in the game. Of course, Kevin Pilkington was a captain of Mansfield Town Football Club. And of course, Christian Pearce was captain of Mansfield Town Football Club. But Matt Green, sadly, Alan, was not, was he?
Are you sure? Are you sure he didn't captain them once?
Not permanent captain.
Okay, fair enough. Bye.
So Alan.
See you later, Alan.
So it's now Green,
Enjoy.
Jim and Nick for the final to see who is standing. So let's delve into the bucket one more time. Close my eyes on this one.
Very exciting, this is.
It's a thrilling game, this. Let's have a look what we got. Featured on Stag's Stories.
Ooh.
If a player has featured on Stag's Stories, you remain in the game. If they haven't featured on Stag's Stories, you are out. Jim, has Christian Pearce appeared on an episode of Stag's Stories?
I don't think he did he?
Not yet.
Well done, Cam. Give the game away. I'm building up some tension here. Well done. Has Kevin Pilkington appeared on an episode of Stag's Stories?
I have a feeling he has.
The answer is yes, he has. Kevin Pilkington appeared on an episode of Stag's Stories.
Well done, Nick.
Amber Generation.
Hang on while I just put this shirt on. Hang on.
Just like that, Nick has won the game. Stat battle. There you go.
He's just like that, eh?
Well done. You've got a point.
Well done.
I am feeling generous, and there are more categories. So if you would like another go, you can pick a new player. Now you know how it works.
I'll stick with the same player.
I'm going to. I mean, I might say you can't, but those four players are now off the board.
You're joking.
So Cam, you went out first. So I'm going to give you a pick of who you want out of the ones that are left.
So who's left? Alan Marriott, Reece Day.
Liam Lawrence and Adam Murray.
Yeah. I will take Adam Murray.
Okay. Alan, you went out next. So you can pick who's left. Liam Lawrence, Reece Day or Alan Marriott.
I'll go with I was going to have Adam Murray, but I'll go with Reece Day.
Okay. Jim, you finished second in that game. Liam Lawrence or Alan Marriott?
Liam Lawrence.
Okay, and that leaves you, Nick, with Alan
Keeper
Marriott.
again.
Now,
I would have picked him anyway.
Have you got a shirt?
I haven't actually. I haven't got Lawrence or Marriott.
maybe we should not ask that question, just in case it comes up in the bucket. Right, here we go. Same rules apply. Last person standing wins a point. So here we go. Let's rattle through this one then. What have we got? Least amount of Stags appearances. So Alan Marriott, according to my research, made 201 appearances. Christian Pearce, 192. Reece Day, 104. And Liam Lawrence, 136. Which means, Alan, you're out.
See you later, Al.
So,
See you again.
well done.
Again.
Thanks for playing. Next up, we've
No
got.
problem.
Oh, did they appear in the non-league? So I think we might have. We could have a winner here. Did Alan Marriott appear in the non-league? Yes,
I think he might have done.
Did Liam Lawrence appear in the non-league? No, he did not. Did Adam Murray appear in non-league? Yes, he did. So it's between Nick and Cam for the final point. Here we go.
Have they ever worn gloves? Yes, that's it.
The last
I'd like to know when it was cold.
category shot.
Yeah, very true.
Can't do that one because I've just given the answer to that by doing
I
East.
can't imagine Adam Murray wearing gloves.
No, he's a
No,
short
me
sleeve,
neither.
no glove man, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, that is what's just come out.
Well, that's terrible because I don't have either.
Exactly. So
I haven't got Murray. I had all 4 of the first 4 picks. I haven't got any of the last 4
Oh,
picks.
wow.
let's have a look what we've got then in the last one. Okay.
Is he currently an electrician? Yes.
Least amount of Stags goals.
Oh, I know Marriott's got one.
Yeah, he's got 1.
Adam,
That's bollocks.
That's Wrexham.
Disgusting. Well, I suppose how's the question worded? Do you win if you've got the least amount, or does it list the least amount out?
you win if
wow.
you've got the least amount. So Nick,
Easy.
by
Thank you.
virtue of getting 2 goalkeepers by pure freak, has won the second round of it. There you
Well done again.
I'm going to pick Paddy Gamble next time it comes up.
Who knows? It might well when the game comes up. Right, you've got 30 seconds to slag it off each. Jim, your thoughts on the stat battle as a game?
Yeah.
Cam,
Bullshit.
Nick, I'm sure you're delighted with it.
I think the fact that I was left with the dregs twice and won shows the ability and thought process of the previous pickers.
Ooh.
I'll say no more. You know what I mean, Craig? You know what I mean?
Are you showing disrespect to our Alan Wilson? How dare you?
No, he was always going to pick Reece Day and Matt Green. They were there for Alan. That's why they were there.
And Alan, are you just disappointed that you just didn't get to ask me if they were wet?
Now, all I can say, Craig, I think it's on a par with the bucket. And I was even though I didn't win, I was very pleased with the outcome. And well done, Nick.
Thank you. You can't ask for more than that, can you?
I'll take it on the chins. Well done.
It is as simple as that. Right, that's almost all we've got time for. Let's finally refocus our attention on Lincoln on Saturday. Jim, a team really that in previous years have grown into what we aspire to be. They were a non-league team for a long time, dug their way out of it, eventually got promoted out of League Two, and over the last couple of seasons have stabilised in League One. They're exactly what we aim for. So the best thing to do with a club that you aspire to be is go and beat them, right?
Yeah, and I'm more confident, I think, for the away games than I am the home games. So I've got a good feeling about Saturday. Yeah, I think we'll be all right. I think we're going to score some goals and going to beat them.
Certainly hope so. The key thing, Cam, is cutting out the mistakes, isn't it? Let's try and keep that clean sheet. That's the key thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. You look at the games that we've played so far, and they've been one missing out in the playoffs, one will have just missed out on the playoffs in Lincoln, so it'll be another good test, and one avoided relegation. So we've had a real mixed bag start of the season. But even going into this game, if you'd have said at the start of the season, two games unbeaten, you'd have took it, wouldn't you? So let's just get this momentum going on and just keep it ticking over, and we'll be all right.
And the key thing, Alan, is to try and get through the game without any injuries, and let's try and keep that front two firing as well. Because if we can get them firing on all cylinders, I think we could be onto a good thing. There'll be a big Stags back in there on Saturday afternoon. Sold out our tickets in the end, and unbeaten our first 2 league games. Let's make it 3.
Yeah, I think the more that they play together, the better Mansfield Town will be. And I think that will help DKD's development as well. Because I think he'll start coming to the fore because the pressure might have been taken off him slightly. I always love going to Sinsel Bank or LNER Stadium, as it calls, something like that. I'm looking forward to Saturday.
And Thomas in the comments says, I think we'll be fine at the back, especially once our injured lads return. Cargill, Flazer, Tracy and Hewitt will all add to the back line. No need to be overly concerned with the weekend's action. And I think the one message that the players need to take into the dressing room, Nick, on Saturday is make sure you hit the...
Yeah, same message as last week. Don't lose. That's it. Simple as that. Don't lose.
Same message every week, I think, on that one. Just don't lose games. If you can get into Christmas with 10 wins, that's almost perfect, isn't it? So something to aim for, something to talk about next week. No midweek game this time around either. So we've got a little bit of a break. So we might not see you next Thursday. We might see you next Wednesday instead. We'll see how things progress. And of course, we look forward to seeing how we get on against Lincoln and how we get on in terms of player injuries, progression, and keeping that unbeaten run going as well. For my thanks to everyone on the podcast tonight, to Alan Wilson, to Cam Felton, to Jim Evans, and to Nick of Mansfield Town fame. That's all we've got time for on tonight's show. Yes, thanks so much for watching. Really enjoyed your company as always tonight. A reminder that all views broadcast in tonight's show are those of the individual and not those collectively of Mansfield Matters. If you want to play along with podcast predictions, you can do so via the link in the description. A reminder, you must submit your guess no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff on Saturday afternoon. Can the Stags continue their unbeaten start to life in League One as they take on local rivals Lincoln City? Can the Stags keep scoring goals? Can they get that first elusive clean sheet? Well, we're all looking forward to finding out. Join us at a similar time next week. Make sure you follow us on all things social media to find out when, as we discuss all on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Good night. I'm off to fix me bucket.